Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Wynna Wong. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. The MTR Corporation and the chief executive prepare for the opening of East Rail's cross-harbour section. At least 27 people are killed in a fire in a commercial building in New Delhi. And the top U.S. diplomat condemns Israeli police for disrupting the funeral of a Palestinian-American journalist. Chief Executive Carrie Lam has expressed the hope that the incoming government will continue to improve Hong Kong's railway network. Her remarks came as she opened the cross-harbour section of the East Rail line, which from tomorrow will run from the Northern New Territories to Admiralty. Maisie Mock reports.
Chief Executive Carrie Lam visited the new platform at Hong Kong Station on the eve of the opening of East Rail's cross-harbour section. She had a look at the first-class compartment in a 9-carriage train, and then sat in the ordinary section for a ride to the new exhibition center station, where she officiated at the opening ceremony.
3, 2, 1!
Speaking at the launch of the long-delayed Hong Kong to Admiralty section, Lam said she believes the line will be popular. From tomorrow, it will take 40 minutes to travel from Shengshui to Admiralty without changing trains. The 46-kilometer line bridges the central business district and the proposed northern metropolis and could go further. Lam disclosed that the SAR and Shenzhen governments are studying whether to extend East Rail to Luohu in Shenzhen. She also said environmental impact assessments have begun for the Northern Link and Hongshui Q station projects. Lam, who leaves office at the end of next month, hopes the next government will continue with the projects and further improve the city's railway network. Jacob Kam, chief executive of the MTR Corporation, said he believes that East Rail will be able to cope with passenger demand. A special train leaves Exhibition Center at 5:25 a.m. tomorrow, marking the delayed completion of the city's most expensive railway project, which cost almost $91 billion. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
The Transport Department has come under fire for reducing cross-harbour bus frequencies because of the extension of the East Rail line. A concern group said the public was not consulted. It argued that cutting bus frequencies would cause overcrowding and longer waiting times. The group said over 80% of the 2,000 people it questioned in Kowloon City and Wong Tai Sin do not believe that the MTR extension will improve cross-harbour travel for them. More COVID cases have been reported from 2 clusters, a restaurant in Shangwan and a snooker club in Hong Kong. This comes amid concerns over children affected by long COVID symptoms. Maisie Mock reports.
The COVID cluster from the Sky Cuisine restaurant in Shangwan has been extended to 39, with 11 new cases identified among customers and staff. All the customers were seated on the 3rd floor of the restaurant last Saturday. Environmental samples taken from toilets and came back positive with COVID. 4 more customers and 2 staff of the Song Mong Club in Hong Kong were also infected, taking the snooker club cluster to 12. Health officials reported 284 new cases today, including 33 imported infections.
So we have around 300 cases in the community. There are definitely a lot of silent transmission in the community. So we only note those major clusters so we can take action, but we understand there may be a lot of transmissions through other routes.
Meanwhile, Mike Kwan from Princess Margaret Hospital said over 30 children developed multi-system inflammatory syndrome after recovering from COVID. Half of the children had to undergo intensive care. Kwan said 10% of the 130 children he treated after contracting the virus have developed long COVID symptoms, such as poor memory and concentration. He urged parents to get their children vaccinated. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
China has given up the hosting rights of next year's Asian Cup, the continent's biggest national football tournament. This came as Beijing maintained a high COVID alert. Chloe Feng reports.
With millions of people under lockdown in various cities, China underlined its determination to keep the virus at bay by deciding not to host next year's Asian Cup finals. 24 countries were to take part in Asia's biggest football competition, which had been scheduled to be played in 10 cities in June and July next year. The Asian Football Confederation said it had been officially informed by the Chinese Football Association that it will not be able to host the AFC Asian Cup in 2023. Last week, China postponed the Asian Games, which were due to be held in Hangzhou next year. On the medical front, Beijing reported another 40 COVID infections, taking the tally past 1,000 since an outbreak began late last month. Officials ordered strict work-from-home rules and suspended all public transport in the high-risk district of Fangshan. Shanghai, which is reaching its 7th week of partial lockdowns, reported about 1,600 local infections and one more COVID death. A hospital in the financial hub, meanwhile, apologized for a mistaken death case. An elderly person whom it said died in quarantine and was cremated turned out to be alive and was sent back to a care home. The person who actually died was also 93. Chloe Fong, HKIBC.
North Korea has reported over 170,000 new cases of suspected COVID and 21 additional deaths as the country struggles to keep the virus out. Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un met top Politburo members in Pyongyang and described the outbreak as a great upheaval. He said he would be donating some of his private medicine supplies. The country officially confirmed its first COVID infection on Thursday, and numbers have been skyrocketing ever since. There are doubts that North Korea has managed to stop the virus, as claimed over the past few years. It's also widely believed that the population is unvaccinated. Over 24 people are dead after a fire ripped through a building in India's capital. 2 owners of a company with an office inside have now been arrested. Distressed relatives of those killed in the fire had to be propped up as they left the mortuary. Others were consoled by relatives. This was the aftermath of a fire that engulfed a commercial building in the capital, New Delhi, late yesterday, killing at least 27 people and injuring 12. Flames from the 4-story building sent thick, dark smoke into the air. Over 75 people were believed to be inside when the fire started. Many took drastic measures to save themselves. Sangeeta Rani was one of those who managed to escape. I got hold of a rope near the window and started going down, she recalled. I fell down. Some people there helped me. Police believe the fire had started in an office on the 1st floor and spread fast. They have arrested 2 of the office's company owners and are investigating suspected safety violations. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has promised $2,500 in compensation for victims' families. The United States has denounced Israeli police for attacking the funeral procession of Al Jazeera journalist Shireen Abu Akleh, who was killed earlier this week. After her casket almost fell to the ground, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said he was deeply troubled by the shocking images. Chaos as mourners tried to lay American-Palestinian journalist Shireen Abu Akleh to rest. The 51-year-old was shot in the head on Wednesday while covering an Israeli raid in the occupied West Bank town of Jenin. Her casket was almost dropped at one point when riot police rushed at pallbearers, marking a shocking start to the procession in Jerusalem. The funeral turned into a battleground as mourners shoved and scuffled with officers at the scene. Israel said the officers moved in after they were stoned by rioters, but U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said he was deeply troubled by the images of Israeli police intruding into the funeral procession of Palestinian-American Shireen Abu Akleh. His tweet continued, "Every family deserves to lay their loved ones to rest in a dignified and unimpeded manner." There is immense grief among Palestinians over the killing of Abu Akleh, a veteran reporter for Al Jazeera TV. Those who were with her when she was shot and Al Jazeera itself said the Israeli military was responsible for her death. Israel, which initially blamed Palestinian gunmen, is now not ruling out that the reporter could have been killed by Israeli gunfire. There were calls worldwide for an immediate, thorough, transparent, fair, and impartial investigation. Abu Akleh, a Christian, was buried at Jerusalem's Zion Cemetery next to her parents. Back in Hong Kong, visitors made a splash on their return to Waterworld, which put out the welcoming mat today after being closed for the past 4 months because of COVID. Chloe Feng reports.
The cloudy weather failed to dampen spirits as Waterworld reopened after a 4-month closure because of COVID restrictions. This boy, who was the first one in this morning, couldn't hide his joy and excitement. This woman was happy that the long wait was finally over and said she wasn't concerned about COVID because all visitors to the Ocean Park attraction have to be vaccinated. The Rainbow Rush was what these boys were keen on. The 8-lane slide offers a fast and furious experience with water. One boy was well prepared and brought along 9 masks, but said he won't wear one in the water. Vaccine pass rules apply for visitors aged 12 and above, and the park is operating at half capacity, welcoming not more than 3,000 people a day. The first 200 visitors received gift packages, which included waterproof bags and towels. There will be student discounts later when exams are over. Waterworld, which cost $4 billion to construct, is built as Asia's first all-weather, year-round seaside water park. It encountered delays and caused overruns before opening in September last year. Chloe Feng, HKIBC.
A look at the weather before we go. It will be cloudy with occasional showers and a few thunderstorms tomorrow. Temperatures will range between 21 and 24 degrees. More cloud and rain on Monday before we get some sunny periods on Tuesday. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. that's our main news for Saturday night. Join us for more at 11:30. I'm Wynna Wong. Good night.